I never thought the woman who brought me into this world would be the one who tried to crush my greatest joy, my own mother. Hi everyone, my name is Sarah, and if you're watching this, I want you to know you're not alone if someone who was supposed to protect you ended up hurting you the most. This story is about how my pregnancy, the one thing I had prayed for, cried for, and fought for, became the target of my mother's sharpest words, until one letter from my doctor changed everything at our family dinner table. I'm 31 now, but back then, when all of this started, I was 29. I had been married to my husband Mike for 6 wonderful years. We met in college, the kind of love that feels steady and safe. Mike is the type of man who remembers how I take my coffee and holds my hand during thunderstorms because he knows they scare me. We built a beautiful little life together, a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs, good jobs, Sunday morning pancakes, and quiet evenings where we talked about our dreams. One of those dreams was becoming parents. For 3 long years, we tried. Doctor visits, tests, injections, tears in the bathroom when another month passed with nothing. I felt like my body was betraying me. Every time I saw a pregnant woman in the grocery store, something inside me would twist with longing and pain. My mother knew about our struggles. At least, she knew parts of it. But instead of comfort, her words always carried this edge. You're not getting any younger, Sarah. Maybe you're just too stressed. Women in our family never had these problems. She would say it with that small smile like she was being helpful. I brushed it off for years. I told myself that's just how Mom is, blunt, opinionated, but she loves me. She raised me alone after my father left when I was 10. She worked 2 jobs so I could have dance classes and decent clothes. I owed her respect. I owed her everything, or at least I thought I did. When the pregnancy test finally showed those 2 pink lines, I cried so hard Mike had to hold me for 20 minutes. We were overjoyed. Scared, but overjoyed. I wanted to tell my mom right away. I imagined her hugging me, crying happy tears, and finally being proud of me. That fantasy lasted exactly 3 days. I invited her over for coffee on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. The living room smelled like fresh flowers. I had baked her favorite lemon cookies. When I told her the news, I watched her face carefully. "You're pregnant," she said, raising one eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes, Mom. 8 weeks already. The doctor confirmed it." She leaned back in her chair and laughed, a short, dry laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, that's surprising. After all that trouble you were having. Are you sure it's healthy? You've always been so delicate." That was the first crack, but I smiled anyway. I told myself she was just shocked. I showed her the ultrasound picture, that tiny bean-shaped miracle. She barely glanced at it. "Make sure you don't gain too much weight. Pregnancy is no excuse to let yourself go." I felt the words land like tiny stones in my chest, but I swallowed them. This was supposed to be happy news. I wanted her to be part of it. I needed my mother. In the weeks that followed, the mocking grew bolder. Every phone call became a battlefield dressed up as concern. "Morning sickness again. Maybe your body isn't cut out for this. Your sister got pregnant so easily and never complained." My younger sister Emma had given birth 2 years earlier. Mom never missed a chance to compare us. Emma was the golden child, perfect marriage, perfect body, perfect baby. I was the one who struggled. I started hiding my symptoms from her. When my feet swelled, I didn't mention it. When I was exhausted from work, I lied and said I felt amazing. But she could sense weakness. She always could. One Sunday, we had a family barbecue at her house. I was 4 months along, starting to show in my loose dresses. My aunts and uncles were there, excited for me. Mom waited until everyone was seated with plates of food before she started. "Look at Sarah trying to hide that belly. Honey, you're already getting big. Are you eating for 2 or for 5? She laughed loudly, and a few relatives chuckled awkwardly. Mike squeezed my hand under the table. I forced a smile, but inside I was shrinking. That night I cried in the car all the way home. Mike kept saying, "She's just jealous. She wants to stay in control." But I couldn't shake the feeling that my own mother was embarrassed by my joy. I started to feel invisible. Like my pregnancy, my body, my miracle, none of it mattered. Only her opinions did. The comments got crueler as the months passed. You better hope the baby doesn't inherit your weak constitution. At your age, complications are common. You should have listened to me and settled down earlier. Every word chipped away at the happiness I had fought so hard to feel. I began questioning myself. Was I too old? Was I not strong enough? Was this baby really going to be okay? But what I didn't know was that the worst was yet to come, and that one dinner would change how I saw my mother forever. As my belly grew rounder and the baby started kicking, I hoped Mom would soften. I was wrong. The real betrayal happened around my 6th month. I had been feeling some unusual pain, so I went in for extra checkups. My doctor, Dr. Alina Ramirez, was wonderful, calm, thorough, and kind. After a series of tests, she sat me down and explained that this pregnancy was considered high risk due to my history of fertility struggles and some complications with blood pressure. She prescribed rest, medication, and careful monitoring. She also wrote a detailed medical letter outlining everything: how precious this baby was, how hard we had fought, and the specific risks if I experienced high stress. I carried that letter in my bag like a shield. I thought maybe if Mom saw it in black and white, she would understand. Instead, she used my vulnerability to hurt me more. At a family dinner for my aunt's birthday, everything exploded. I was 7 months pregnant, tired, and emotionally drained. Mom had been drinking a little wine, which always made her tongue sharper. In front of 12 relatives, she started again. "Sarah, you're waddling now. It's not a good look. When I was pregnant with you, I worked full-time until the day I delivered. This generation is so dramatic about everything." The table went quiet. I felt my face burn. Mike tried to change the subject, but Mom wasn't done. "And honestly, I still don't understand how it even happened after all those years of you complaining you couldn't get pregnant. Are you sure everything is normal?" That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. The shame, the anger, the years of feeling like I was never enough, it all rose up at once. I reached into my purse with shaking hands and pulled out the folded letter from Dr. Ramirez. My voice was quiet but steady. "Mom, since you care so much about my pregnancy, why don't you read this?" She rolled her eyes but took the paper. As she started reading, the smirk slowly faded. The room was completely silent except for the sound of pages turning. I watched her face change, first confusion, then disbelief, and finally something I had never seen before: guilt. The letter explained everything in professional, medical detail. How I had suffered through 3 years of infertility treatments. How this pregnancy was nothing short of a miracle. How my body had been through immense stress, and how continued emotional pressure could put the baby at serious risk. It mentioned my elevated blood pressure readings after family gatherings. It recommended limited contact with sources of high stress for the health of the mother and child. When Mom reached the last page, her hands were trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes, real tears. She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, my mother looked small. "Sarah, I didn't know," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me it was this serious?" I felt the weight of years pressing on my chest. "Because every time I tried to share my struggles, you turned them into weapons. You mocked me when I was breaking. You laughed at the one thing that finally brought me happiness." Tears were running down her face now. The whole family was stunned. My aunt put her hand on Mom's shoulder, but she shrugged it off and stood up. For once, she had nothing clever to say. She just cried loud, ugly, broken sobs right there at the dinner table. I didn't feel triumph at first. I felt exhausted. But underneath that exhaustion was something new: power. For the first time, I had drawn a boundary. I had protected my baby and myself with truth instead of silence. That night after we got home, Mike held me while I cried. Not from sadness this time, but from release. The next few weeks were hard. Mom tried calling several times. Her messages went from defensive to apologetic. She even showed up at our door once with flowers, eyes red from crying. I didn't let her in. Not yet. I told her I needed space. Real space. Not the kind she could fill with more criticism disguised as love. For the first time, I chose my peace over her feelings. The revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet. It was me choosing to focus on my health, my marriage, and my growing baby. It was sending her ultrasound photos without asking for her opinion. It was letting her see through family photos that life was moving forward beautifully, with or without her approval. When my daughter was born, healthy, strong, and perfect, Mom came to the hospital. She held her granddaughter with tears streaming down her face again. This time, she didn't speak. She just looked at me with something like respect I had never seen before. "I was wrong," she said softly one afternoon when we were alone. "I thought I was helping you become stronger. Instead, I almost broke you." I nodded. I needed a mother, not a critic. I still do, but things have to be different now. She agreed. Our relationship isn't perfect today, but it's honest. She's more careful with her words. She's learning, and I've learned something even more important. I learned that protecting your peace is not selfish. It's necessary. I learned that sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's refusing to let them destroy you. It's building a beautiful life in spite of their doubt. It's choosing to become the mother I always wished I had. To anyone watching who has been mocked, belittled, or made to feel small by family during your most vulnerable moments, please hear me. Your joy is valid. Your body is doing something miraculous. Your boundaries are sacred. Don't wait for them to see your worth. Show them by living fully anyway. My daughter is 2 years old now. She has my eyes and Mike's smile. Every time she laughs, I remember that dark period and how I chose to rise above it. My mother still cries sometimes when she holds her, quiet tears of regret mixed with love. And I finally feel free. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. Drop a comment about your own experiences. I read every single one. Remember, your story matters. Your voice matters. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply speak the truth. Until next time, take care of yourselves.